Hey, universe and mining family. Grab your shovels and your pickaxes. Welcome to the show. I'm Nemesis, and of course, I'm not your babysitter. Do your own research, but let's dig in. Yo, Crypto Nation and mining family, what's going on? So, we got another little workbench episode. Yo, so if you guys didn't know, I have been, DCAing into my rigs. Stupid allergies. So I had purchased another card. Yo, look at that. It is an RX 580 Sapphire Blue Nitro for the win on this one. This goes on to my 13-year-old AMD rig. So my AMD rig is an AMD CPU, AMD motherboard with all AMD graphics cards. Yo! So I've got 3 of them on there with 2 570s, 3 of these and 2 570s on that rig. So winning, they perform beautifully. A lot of people were kind of skeptical whenever I was telling them, hey, I'm going to put together this 13-year-old PC as a mining rig. It's got DDR3 RAM running at DDR2 speeds. Yo. So the RAM is not as important as what people really think, depending on the algorithm that you're mining on. Now, take for instance, like I believe MTP, that algorithm utilizes a little bit of the CPU processor for the validation aspect of it. So an algorithm like that, my 13-year-old PC might not perform properly with. Ooh, payment. Yo. Love that vert. Yo. So this card here I got off of eBay from somebody who said it was just for gaming. Wasn't used for anything else, just gaming. Some reason I don't believe that at all, not in the slightest bit. I put it on the rig. I didn't. This thing's got a little BIOS switch in it right here. It says BIOS switch. There we go. BIOS switch. I did not switch this. I was plugging it in, expecting that I was going to have to BIOS mod this bad boy, right? And so I put it onto my 580 undervolting settings, fired it up with Team Red Miner. Lo and behold, it has the same identical hash rate as my other 2 580s that are BIOS modded. You are not going to get me to believe that the person who owned this was not mining the hell out of this. Now, I'm not too concerned about that though. Even though he might have fibbed a little bit about it's a gaming card, because, well, a lot of people get a stigmata of if you say it's mining, you will never sell these things. Unless it's another miner. Yo, I will buy your GPUs if you want to sell them, as long as they're decent GPUs that I feel is profitable or could be profitable in the future, like this one. So what I'm going to do on this one, considering that I know it's been mined on, I don't know how long it was mined on. The temperatures look like they're pretty good on there. I did have it running for like 24 hours. It's living life right at 48C. But you know what? If this thing is about a year old and has been mining, gaming, I mean, especially if it was an extreme gamer, let's say that it lived part of its life as a mining rig, part of its life as a gaming rig. Gamers, I don't know about you, but me, I run my graphics cards a little hotter whenever I'm gaming. It's just how it happens. I undervolt my stuff when I'm mining to put them into their most efficient mode, keeps them nice and cool, and I can tone down the fans on them, and I keep the fans up high enough that heat's not an issue at all. I hate heat. If my cards go over 65C, I think there's a problem. So before there was a problem with this one, since I just got it and I really don't know the full history on it, came off of eBay, so I mean, I'm not the original owner. Let's go ahead and rethermal paste this. Now, This thing has a bunch of screws on here, and if you notice here, there's one of them's got a little sticker on there. Don't worry if you're wanting to do this. Don't worry about poking a hole in that sticker that it's gonna void a warranty. It won't. In some cases, some companies will kind of hesitate on giving you any kind of a warranty on your stuff if you've been gaming on it for a few years and you've never rethermaled it. This is actual GPU maintenance. It's like one of those unspoken maintenances. Being a mechanic for automobiles, one of those unspoken maintenances on a car is like replacing an O2 sensor every 60,000 miles. Nobody does that at all. They figure you should be able to drive your car for 100,000 miles and never have an issue. Those same people who think that think you can game and mine on these things forever and never have an issue. And what it does, it's poor quality craftsmanship. Not that there's any maintenance needing to be done on it. Come on, guys. Come on. So, I've never actually cracked one of these the Sapphire Blue Nitros open. Kind of looking at the perimeter on this, it looks like some of the screws hold the shroud on, and then a few of them hold the cooler to the board, and then it looks like they all hold the back plate on here, and then there's 3 little screws right here. It doesn't look like I should have to take these off, so let me get this into the view a little bit better. So these little screws, it does not look like I need to take these off. These screws, the bigger screws, it looks like I have to take all these bigger screws out. So, not an issue, guys. Let's dig into what we got going on here. Yo! So, bam. Give you the eagle eye view of what I'm doing down here. And let's see if I can put this more into the camera's view. There we go. Bam. There we go. So, grab my handy dandy screwdriver. Yo! And it's just a Phillips screwdriver. I think this is a number 1 bit. You don't want to really, if it doesn't look like it's fitting in there properly and you give it a little turn and it tries to pop out, make sure you got the right tip on the screwdriver. So I'm going to go ahead and separate the case, the shroud first. Yeah. So it looks like it's these 4 outer screws at the corners. So we're going to go ahead and take these off first. And it looks like these ones are all sprung on. Alright. So they don't need to go on all that tight. Considering it's just going into plastic, whenever you're putting this back together, do not use Herculean strength to put it back together. You're going to break stuff. Let's see here. Oh, I got one more. Looks like I got one more screw right here that's holding on the shroud. That should technically come off. Yeah, look at that. Man, we got a bunch of wires to disconnect here. So one of the wirings should be for fan control on this. Come on. Now what you're seeing me do is I'm using my nail. If you guys don't have good nails or you can't get your finger in there, get like a little pick. Like maybe like a wooden pick so it's non-conductive and all that good stuff. And there's like little itty bitty locking tabs, so I'm trying to not pull the pin out of the circuit board itself. So let's take a look at this. Yo, check this out. Bam. So here's the cooler. Bam. That's a pretty decent cooler, and you can see all the heat pipes running in and out. That's actually a really good design, and the airflow, you can see the circuit board going right through the cooler. So that's actually really nice. Yo! Hey, I got another payout. So, try not to smash this thing onto whatever surface you've got going on. And bam. So let's go ahead and separate the cooler. And it looks like it's going to be all the rest of these bigger screws to pull the cooler apart off of this. Yo, let's dig in. Now I'm going to put these particular screws off on their own because they are a different color. Try not to mix up your screws too badly. You never know if they change like thread pitch or whatever on the screws. Ones can be longer than the other. So just kind of pay attention to that. As a mechanic, I see that a lot, so I try to separate all my screws. As you see, I put these ones that went here off to the side. These ones held the case in place. And then these were for the main section of the cooler. Now from here, oh, I got 2 more screws here, and it should separate these out. Alright, so I put this one down, and what I'll do is I'll pick this up. Since there should be nothing holding on this cooler anymore, it will be kind of stuck on there. I mean, it's not separating. So usually you have to give them a gentle little pull, just like that, and then they separate. Yo! So check this out. That's really an interesting way of doing things. I like that. Oh my gosh, this is actually a wow. Hold on, guys. You guys got to see what I am seeing here. So, bam. For one, the thermal paste has been boiled off a little bit, so you could tell that it was definitely mined on for a while. But another thing that you'll see that's really interesting, you see this right here, right below my index finger? This is the memory. And if you see what's on top of it, it looks like they got sticky tape on there. These are thermal pads. So what they're doing with the thermal pads is that they're making sure that the memory stays in contact with the base of the cooler. So they're using this whole cooler to not only cool down the CPU. Think about this, guys. They're not just cooling the CPU down. They're also cooling the memory down. So if this card starts getting a little on the warm side, like you're running the CPU a little too hot, you're also running your memory hot, which the moment that this particular memory gets hot, it starts to slow down. So the cooler this card stays, the more hashing power you get, and the better gaming you get if you're gaming with this. So definitely make sure this one stays clean, guys. This is going to directly affect how the performance of the card is going to be overall. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to clean the old thermal paste off of this, guys, and rethermal this. It's since this card's like super clean, dude. Oh my god. This person has not been in this chip. I guarantee you he did not crack it open. Just because the stickers are on those, unless he was like a surgeon with like an X-Acto blade picking off the sticker off the screw heads, he more than likely never opened this thing up. So this thing has probably been in operation for at least a year and has never been cracked open. So we're gonna go ahead and fix this up real nice. And of course, I've got my MK4 thermal paste from Arctic, some of the best in my opinion. non-conductive thermal paste. Unless there's something with a better temperature threshold on it than this is what my go-to is for right now. Things could change. I'm just saying. So definitely gonna want to clean this. As a nice copper plate for the CPU. Copper gives a real nice thermal conductivity. It absorbs the heat really nicely, and then from there it transfers them into the heat pipes here. So this is a really, really nice setup on here that I'm going to clean up, and we're going to make it look nice. Very nice, very nice. Yeah. Let's go ahead and just clean that die up. Cleans up real nice. And the reason why you want to use thermal paste on these for the heat transfer is that after machining process, they have to actually machine these surfaces flat. I don't know if my camera's gonna pick it up, but you see how it looks like, oh, I got schmutz on my finger. But as you can see here, it looks like there's lines in that copper. Well, those are actually the lathing lines. So the lathe is sitting there making it as smooth as possible, but it's cutting little lines out. So they can't get the surface perfectly flat again, and that's where the thermal grease comes in play. So it makes the surface act like the two surfaces are perfectly smooth and flat, and transfers all the heat to every little crevice and crook and cranny. You know, definitely got to make sure you get it in there. And then some people use a lint brush, like something that's soft, and then we'll get into the little grooves that clean them up just a little bit more. I'll use like a piece of cotton or something that's not gonna give any kind of lint. All right, and all right, then I'm gonna come into here and we're gonna just wipe this down. Well, that's kind of promising. The paste is actually not rock hard. I'm so used to seeing it where when the thermal paste is finally like cashed, it'll get like rock hard, guys. All right, here, let me flip this around. And it doesn't have to be like absolutely perfect, so don't think you have to go through and do everything just in like a clean room environment type of thing. Alright, perfect. Because what they would have used on there too already would be non-conductive to begin with, so that's all you're going to have to put back on there. It's just something that's going to be non-conductive. Damn. They got the surface of this chip like a mirror. It's like, bam, you can see how it just that chipset just reflects, guys. Let me go like that, see? So it just perfectly reflects. So thankfully I don't have anything incriminating on my computer that I gotta worry about. Yo. So I don't know why it's popping that out like that. So, whatever. Whatever. I must have bumped the button and it's like got my pop out a little weird, but everything's working fine on OBS side, so we good. And from here, you take a little bit of your thermal paste, and I make an X on there. With the thermal paste, you really can't put too much on there. I mean, there's that point where you're like wasting it. But as long as you've got good coverage on there, I like to make an X. Some people make an X, some people do a dab, some people spread them out. Whatever your technique is that you have been using to make sure that there's no air bubbles whenever you put the cooler back on there. I find that either putting a dab in the very center of the chip works, or just put an X. I know a lot of people just X it out. This way you don't have, like, if you put like a little ball in the center of the chip and you smash it down, if it smashed it a little crooked and before it tightened down all the way, it might not spread the thermal paste edge to edge properly, and that's some of the reasons why I just do an X. This way it's got thermal paste pretty much everywhere where it's going to need it, and when everything smashes down, it should spread it. Regardless if it goes down a little crooked or it shifts a little bit, I'm just saying. And just like that, guys. And I will show you exactly what I'm talking about here. Bam, see? A nice little X on that. That should spread just fine. So, with that being said, then it's time to basically put these two back together. Yo! So, whenever you're doing this, I like to leave the cooler laying down like this, and I'll match this up because the cooler's got all the screws to tighten everything back down. It's just easier to tighten them down with the cooler down. This way you can see the holes through the board and everything. But that's just me. And I might need just a little bit of light to kind of help out with the sightseeing on this. Just because it's kind of going into a little bit of a darker area. Sometimes a little light on the subject never hurts, right guys? Yeah, look at that. That helped out tremendously. Oh, yes. Perfect. Yo. That was a great idea with a little bit of flashlight. Yes. And I try not to tighten all these down until I've got all the screws pretty much started. It's just safer that way. And then whenever I'm tightening these down, I tighten them down like a little X pattern a little bit. And the first two that I'm tightening down, I kind of just incrementally walk them in just a little bit. It helps keep the alignment a little bit and allows them to tighten more uniformly. Alright, so give it a little torque. I'm not tightening these down too terribly. They don't need to be that tight. These things have got springs on them and everything too, so keep that in mind. Alright. So that's pretty much the cooler all back together on here. It's gonna live life really nice and happily. I should have gotten a good spread with that thermal grease. Yo! So now it's pretty much time to put this back together. So one of these are going to be for the fan control basically, and the other one's going to be for like LEDs. So this first one I just plugged in is for the LEDs. If you guys no longer want to see your graphics card being blue, you can just not hook that up. Alright, so bam. Bam. And then flip this thing over. Now these are going into plastic, so keep that in mind, guys, that you don't need to go, you know, with the tightest grip you can possibly put on it. And again, don't tighten these down until everything is in their place. This way you get a proper alignment of everything. You can shift it around if needed, if those holes aren't lining up. There's the screws from the LED and the fans will kind of push these off to the cases off to the side just a little bit. And I've got a longer one that needs to go, here it is, okay. And remember guys, some of these are like a little longer than the other because they've got to go through the board. So keep that in mind of which screws you're using where. Of course, and then I throw one. Thank God it didn't go far. Stay in my hands. And one last one, and then I can tighten all these down. Yo, awesome. They don't need to be tight, you know, finger tight. I always preach that. They weren't that tight to come apart. You shouldn't put them that tight to go back together. I know there's a torque spec to them. I don't know them. I've always just kind of give them a little snugger, and they're usually good. And just like that, guys. It's all back together, yo, and it's gonna go back onto the mine and start mining away, yo. So I'm going to plug this back in, and we're going to see where the hash rate is now. So stay tuned, guys. Hold on. So, yo, looks like my rig's coming back online now. Yo, about freaking time. So, of course, whenever I'm doing any kind of rig maintenance, you know, you got to power everything down. You can't hot swap it on Linux. Hot swapping is a Windows thing, so you try to hot swap on Linux, it usually crashes the machine out. You have driver errors. You'll have to shut it down, reboot it, all that good stuff. So, yo. And just trying to see if I can get the temperatures to kind of slide down just a little bit here. And of course, you know, whenever you're mining, it takes a little bit. You got to give it some time to kind of ramp up and get its full hash power out. Usually a couple of cycles, and you start seeing the full potential, and you start getting the temperatures to go up. So, bam. And I've got my one card. It's okay. They're both now. They're at their hashing potential. So let me show you what I'm looking at, guys. Bam. So we are seeing that GPU 1 and 2. These two here were ones that I bought brand spanking new. And as you see here, the temperature on this one is really nice. Of course, the rig just started back up. It's been down since I basically started rolling video. So I turned off the rig, sat down, turned on the camera, have you guys see what I'm doing here. And now we're starting to see the temperatures on them climb up a little bit here. Now, it seems like GPU 1 is the card wants to stay a little cooler, so that one might have some a better coverage of thermal paste on there. I don't know what their method of spreading thermal paste is, and you know, some cards just run a little warmer than others. Like maybe the solder was had a little bit more impurities than on this particular card than it did on the next one. So these little variants in manufacturing will affect temperature and all that good stuff. So it looks like now that I've been sitting here chit-chatting for a second, these the one card is, you know, starting to come back up in temperature. As long as it stays under, you know, 52C, I'm actually quite happy with these. Now, I do have an aggressive undervolting on there, because a lot of people don't realize that you can control the temperature of the rig by how much power you give it. So if you've got a good cooling solution and you don't care about your electric price, then you can ramp them up a little bit more. If your cooling solution is not as nice, then you want to kind of dial them back a little bit. If you got real bad electricity, like if you're pushing near 18 cents per kilowatt hour, you're going to want to dial back that power. You're not going to want to be as aggressive with how many hash, you know, max hash that you can get up off of it. So it actually looks like the card wants to live at 48C now. The temperatures on this are in Celsius. So if you guys ever want to figure out what Celsius is, it's whatever the temp that it is reading times 1.8 plus 32 at the end. And that'll give you the temperature in Fahrenheit. Just so that if anybody ever wants to calculate that out, you can easily convert it on any rig, any PC. I know, like my Windows, I can switch it over to read Fahrenheit instead of Celsius, but if you go into BIOS, it's going to be reading it in Celsius. So I just kept it in Celsius, this way I can look at it and, oh, that's a good temperature, or oh no, that's a bad temperature. It's just a quick reference on there. And as you see, the one card, my card 1, is living life at 40 to 42C right now. The other one is ramped up to 48C, which this one was actually a little warmer than the second one, which makes me almost want to crack the second one open and see if I can re-thermal paste that one and get a little bit better performance off of it. Yo. So, yep, it looks like even that one's starting to come up in temp. So, I mean, I'm not really overly concerned about these temps. These temps are perfect. So, with that, guys, if you guys have any questions, definitely drop some comments in down below. If you got any questions, I will be more than glad to get back at you. And while you're down there, yo guys, smash that Lizzie like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and share these videos with as many people that you think this could help out. And with that, guys, like always, I will see you all on the next one. Peace.